Button Up Multiplayer. I'm Honeyshuckleex.
I'm Stackbot Barbecue.
And I'm Giggleklutz. Today we're going to talk about Slay the Princess. It's
I'm floored about how to actually begin with this one.
Well, first we're going to mention that it's developed by Black Tabby Games. I didn't get a chance to look and see what else they've done, if they've done anything else. I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, me neither.
But I absolutely am interested in more of their projects after this. And the first thing we can say about Slay the Princess is that, well, it's hard to know exactly what to think. I'm glad we played the game. Well, and I won't say we're done with it.
Yeah, we're recording this before the pristine cut comes out. It comes out in like a couple weeks. The large free update to the game that's gonna basically add like an entire other game to play and like all this sort of tracking stuff so you can see what you've completed. It's so much. I've looked at the preview screenshots. There's so much that they're adding to this game.
So if you've played it, no you haven't, you've started it.
How do we describe this before a spoiler warning?
Okay. Descriptors. Rather than, I kind of think to myself that this game kind of defies definition. Defies definition, but not description. Because it's kind of whimsical, kind of horrific, kind of...
bloody.
Well, yeah. Oh, I had a whole bunch. But it's confusing.
It's consequence.
It's a lot of things. It's funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to play, even though it's hard to have any idea what you're doing. It's not hard to play.
At least in terms of the mechanics, this is another thing that can be hard to play on a
Choice paralysis morality level.
and just when things get bad, they get real bad. This game has definitely made me more than a little queasy more than a few times.
And, like, sometimes it's made me, like, really snippy because I kind of get that way sometimes when I'm existential.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. It seems like it's going to be this straightforward, possibly silly...
satire?
horror storybook. A choose-your-own-adventure storybook. You're just told you're in the woods, you're on a path to a cabin, your job is to slay the princess. Okay, everything tells you that. The trailer tells you that. The page tells you that. Everything tells you that.
The game itself tells you that.
Oh, yeah, repeatedly. And I'm sitting here thinking about my mind swelling and contracting. Because it's like, yeah, that's where similarity to, like, non-confusing linear narrative ends.
Like, congratulations, we've concluded the easy part.
You understand the concept. Now we're going to drop you in the deep end.
So this is just like a blanket spoiler warning for literally everyone, except for you people who have managed to get everything in this game somehow.
Yeah. I mean, like, I deliberately have not consumed any Slay the Princess content at this point because I'm sure we didn't find everything. I'm sure we didn't do anything. And I also have a habit of not consuming content of things I think we're going to record about before we record them, so I know all of our ideas are our own, even if they may have common roots out in things in the world.
Yeah, and if we find anything else that we end up needing to talk about, we do have a second channel.
We never used so far.
We haven't used, but if we ever do make more Slay the Princess thoughts, that's probably where it's going to end up.
Probably. And we probably will have more thoughts.
Yeah, this game gives you a lot to think about.
Okay, so that's a lot of time for us to not talk about the game. Here's our official... Unless you are ready to hear people talk about things you may not have done in Slay the Princess, maybe you don't want to listen, maybe you do. It's up to you. You decide your relationship to spoilers, but we're not going to hold back. We're just going to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
And, like, this game also touches on a lot of dark subject matter. It is a horror game.
Yes.
Yeah, just blanket trigger warning for the game itself. It's a lot.
So let's talk about how it feels to play the game. So you're given a blank slate, you walk in the cabin, you're given one choice to make. Seems simple enough, right? One choice. There's a knife on the table, or are you going to pick it up?
Mr. Narrator is like, telling you need to take the blight if you want to do this right. But what is right to you?
And then there's the added layer of morality in a culture that has not yet been defined. We don't know what any of this is. We don't really know what's going on. We're just expected to take our narrator's word for it, that we have to do a hard thing, but it's for the good of the world. What world has not been defined.
Yeah, because narrator says that in order to, save the world, you must slay the princess. She will bring about the end of the world.
Right. Meanwhile, apparently, we have voices in our head.
You start off with just one, the voice of the hero, but as you keep going, you will get more.
But the thing is, that's a weirdness thing that's never really explained. Who knows? But you're going to be able to take input from other places. And of the tiny, tiny bit I played of Disco Elysium, it reminds me of that.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. Right away, I'm like, oh, this is giving Disco Elysium vibes. And I know, don't quote me on that, because I know nothing about it. I will get back to it at some point. But for personal reasons, I hit a trigger point right in the beginning, and I couldn't get into the game. I do plan on getting back to it at some point. But anyway.
Yeah, so more about this game we got into.
Yeah. So then you decide whether or not you're taking the knife. And then you go down the stairs.
And you decide if you're going to call out to the princess, because that does affect things somewhat.
Yeah.
Because, you can tell her, I'm here to kill you. I'm here to save you.
Hi.
Yeah, just, hello.
And can you imagine being chained down in a dungeon and someone's finally coming down and what do they say? Hello! And for some reason that's so much weirder than I'm here to rescue you. I'm here to save you. Or don't worry, it's just me, your friendly neighborhood, not the hero. The hero is someone who lives in my head. Who am I? What? And then I gestured and I lifted my hand up in front of my face and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have no idea what I am.
And it's hello is weirder than who's there.
Right. And it just, no matter what you do, you can't, once you've gone a few rounds, right? And once you've gotten violent, and she's gotten violent, or you've gotten passive and she's gotten more passive, and it's like, oh, okay, we're mirroring each other in an escalation pattern.
Yeah, the choice of whether or not you take the knife immediately has the princess behaving much differently before she's even seen you. It's you don't take the knife, she's kind of more, gentle, just what,
It's okay.
She's more friendly and open, and if you take the knife, she's
defensive.
Naturally.
The moment you pick up that knife, she is already taking a, defensive positions, prepared to hold her ground against you, even if it's only verbally. But it doesn't have to be only verbally. Oh, no.
I'm waiting until we get that tree where we can actually see if we've seen everything, because how many forms is she going to take?
Because here's the thing that we haven't actually explained yet, is that you go into the basement, you interact with the princess, it ends. You start back over in the woods, you have a new voice, you go to the princess, she's different.
It ends. Yeah,
quote unquote.
You die.
Yeah, you die.
You die.
And then, the princess is different. And you can go, the highest we've seen is 4 layers deep.
Before you hit, a branch ending on the story tree.
But here's the thing, we don't know for sure, how many different branches can go off of any given princess. Because if you have your first princess, then your second princess could stop right there. Or, for all we know, there could be 3 more different princesses off of that princess.
Meaning that as you die, your choices might lead to more to do. It's very hard for me to visualize the story structure of what's going on because the story isn't linear also. So the more branches you explore, the more personally confused I got about what's actually going on. Who is the narrator? Who are we? Who's this princess? What the hell is going on? And what world is in the fate of the balance?
And why did the princess keep getting kidnapped by disembodied arms?
Oh, yeah. They appear to be her own, by the way.
Yeah, they're her own arms. I've never seen somebody be kidnapped by their own arms, but here we are.
That's enough of that now. And then you get pulled through the floor.
So yeah, this game has shown me a lot of things I did not know, I did not want to see.
Has it showed you anything you didn't know you wanted to see?
Yeah, actually. A princess made of knives!
Okay, yeah, I did actually want to see that.
I really wanted to see that. I love that one. That one's great.
You have mentioned it quite a few times since we played. But the thing I'm enjoying the most is that while, we're trying to talk about it thematically, like, there is a definite overarching theme. And there might be, but if there is, it hasn't super come into focus for me personally. Instead, there's been just like a web of themes that exist that I've called like the structure of the story, that we could ink blot hang whatever you bring with yourself into the game. And it just, that fits really well because that's kind of how the princess protagonist interaction actually happens, is the princess will mirror exactly what you bring in there. Exactly what you do, she will react as an equal and opposite force. Well, no, equal and complementary kind of force.
Yeah, because, like, for example, there's a path where, like, you start to free the princess and then backstab her as she's going up the stairs. And then she, in turn, in the next iteration, if you try to do the same thing, she will also backstab you. And it's very, like you said, complementary. It is giving you the exact same energy that you gave her.
Which, is very representative of how relationships behave in trauma, which is one thing, I bring to the table with some understanding. My inkblot stuff, but I think it's going to inkblot for most people. I think most people who play Slay the Princess are going to have very different experiences based on what their history is. And the end layers extrapolate this more than almost anything else.
It doesn't help that because there's so many choices, what you get is also catered to you in your perspective, right? Like, you're going to get the endings that will reinforce how you think, in a way.
When you're trying to do what you want to do rather than ending hunting. Yeah. Because once you're ending hunting, it's a little different. You may or may not be thinking about the impact of your choices. You may just be thinking about, I did this before, now I'm going to try that and try and find the other branches, which is a completely different kind of thinking, which adds to thematical confusion, too. Because if you're not thinking about the motivations for making the choices that you're making when you're making them, are the results going to make sense? Are you going to have a context to put those results into? And I know I don't, especially when we're playing collab, not multiplayer style, where we are collectively taking turns making choices. So I'm watching someone else make choices. It's really hard to put character intention into possibly ending hunting motivations. It's like, oh God, how do I put this into context like that protagonist is actually doing the things that they're doing? Because the narrative is thinking that way, even if we aren't. A lot of word salad for you?
I mean, I do believe that is necessary.
What?
Princess is a salad, and we keep putting on different dressing.
Oh, jeez. Vessel.
Yeah, right. Okay, she's a bowl, and it's different salads. You're right. Like fruit salad.
Yummy.
This one's a Caesar salad. This one is salsa.
And this one's salad made of knives.
Knife salad, my favorite.
I don't know where to put this, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit at the end. I mean, once you get past the layer where you're actually talking to your specific princess at the time, where you're going back and you actually meet the shifting mound.
Yeah, this amalgamation of arms that is grateful to receive these princesses.
Because they're looking for experiences in the princess experience, which, harkens to conceptual reincarnation. Talks about, I'm having trouble putting that stuff into words, which is kind of the point. Once you get to that level, she talks to you in poetry. Once you're talking in poetry, there is no concrete understanding anymore. She can tell you whatever she wants, but she's obviously speaking to you from another plane of thinking than the physical one that our interface lives on.
Another vessel comes to me in the long quiet. And you're like, what the hell's that mean?
And we're not going to tell you. Ha 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 ha. And
all will make sense in time.
No, it won't.
And that's good, though. I'm sure it loses some people. I mean, to the point where they don't like it anymore. I think getting lost in all of that is part of the process that they're going for. I think it's inherent to the experience that you go there and you're like, what's this metaphorical bullshit? You know? Like, what is going on here? And what does it all mean? And it forces you kind of, I'm thinking of it now, to really enjoy the journey and to be thinking more about the journey and to be less focused on the endings.
Yeah, like, because I love to approach video games in the standpoint of, like, absorbing their lore. So I do have, like, some interpretations of what is given to you as to what it could theoretically be about. The issue, of course, is that it's all extrapolated to such an extreme that, you know, you're not supposed to have any idea what this is about, I think. Like, it is beyond us.
And not in a bad way. I think it's, like, in that existence through poetry and communicating from a different kind of dimensional layer of thinking, right? Where she's talking, I don't think that the shifting mound is ever not very genuine with you. And I think she's being as direct as she can be. But her existence doesn't make sense when you're trying to think about life like you could slay a princess. I don't think that's a thing that exists where she's at. That's why what she's saying doesn't make sense to you. And it's hard to put these things into words, which is kind of the point. But I think that the narrative being so vague in a way leaves space for all that inkblotness. It leaves space for everyone to grapple with as a player. The things that you're bringing to the table. What are the things that are going to trigger you about what you're asked to do as the protagonist? And about how the princess reacts? You know, what does this say about the way that women are expected to respond or conditioned to respond to whatever kind of treatment that they get? Just on one layer of thinking, you know? Like, when she starts fawning, when you're nice to her, and she starts people-pleasing to a terrifying degree. That was surprising to me. It was how terrifying it was when she just loses herself in the absolute opposite direction. Just as easily as she lost herself in the violence. This isn't what I wanted. I don't want to have to create you just because I decided not to slay you. No, don't put that on me either. Because either way, it feels like by going down those steps, no matter what other choices you made before you go down those steps, her life is in your hands. No matter what. Even if you try and set her free, you're still responsible for her. And it's like, it doesn't feel good. I still want to play. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm engaged in what's happening, even if it is surrounded with a cloud of confusion. They're nodding a lot. I just want to tell you. Not like...
You have a lot to say.
I struggle to find words to respond to a lot of this stuff.
So what was your favorite princess or head companion?
I believe the term the game uses is voice.
Yeah, so...
Which party member was the best?
And why was it the contrarian?
I can't argue with that.
I'm not so sure how I feel about it myself.
You're not so sure, or you're unwilling to admit?
Counterpoint.
So yeah, anyway, when, you know, the game does have humor to it, and it's like a lot of that comes from the interaction between the voices you have and the narrator. So, who better to get into verbal scuffles with the narrator than the contrarian?
Because at least the hero is trying to be reasonable. The hero is trying to be moral. The hero is trying to do what appears to be right. Saving the world feels right, which makes sense if you believe the narrator.
But the problem is that once you actually start to reason with the princess, it starts to become a little bit harder, and the hero gets very confused.
In fact, the game takes away your ability to even slay the princess if you humanize her in any way. If you converse with her, it almost becomes impossible to slay her.
She's too strong. She's a person. She's too strong.
People are strong. But your interest and attention seems to be what gives her power.
It's like the moment you care about her either way, it's like there's nothing you can do to stop her after that.
Yeah. Of course, we should probably finish our thoughts on the Contrarian before we head down this route.
Sounds like a plan.
Because, okay, I set you up perfectly for that one.
That was perfect. I love it. I love it.
So, like, while the hero's trying to do the most moral thing, the different voices will have very different priorities. Like, the Smitten just wants to be next to the princess. The Broken doesn't care. It's all hopeless, etc. And then you've got the Contrarian, who just wants to do whatever the narrator doesn't want to do.
For the most part. But they're also the one who's pushing back against any standard forms. Who's really trying to find the structure in the whole thing. With you, honestly. I don't see the Contrarian as arguing with the protagonist at all.
I think there's, like, one time where it was just like, What do you mean we're doing this one? I guess we could do this one. I hadn't considered this one.
Well, yeah, then they're not being Contrarian, are they?
which is wild. It was just like, wait, how do I,
I want to push back.
It's like, the Contrarian's the one who's listening the closest to what everybody's saying just so they can disagree with it.
Or at least give counterpoint to show form. You know, because it's in some ways it doesn't feel, it's not like the princess, you know, where the princess is a direct reaction. The Contrarian is a thoughtful reaction, which has a point of view of its own, which, you know, strict contrarianism, if you remember the argument sketch from Monty Python, right? It's like, no, that's just a contradiction. Our Contrarian is more argumentative than strictly contrarian.
Counterpoint, hilarious.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And sometimes we'll argue just for comedic effect, but I don't feel like it's just a reactionary gesture. I think it's a thoughtful one. Because at some point, I do feel like all of the head voices really do have a stake in what happens. They do care about maybe what happens to the world, maybe what happens to the protagonist, what happens to themselves, that kind of thing. So they're not like completely neutral actors, no matter who they are. Like the Contrarian will only take the game of being contrary so far, which is great.
Typically because we die.
No. Which you die a lot, and we died.
Everything goes dark, and you die. And it's sometimes it's accompanied by a little achievement sound, you know?
Yeah. Which frequently. We're playing on Steam, so that's kind of what it sounds like on Steam.
Alright, so, okay, we've talked about the Contrarian. Is there any other, like, standout moments or, like, voices or princesses that we want to mention?
I know the most recent one that we were exposed to that I think was new to us was the Broken.
We first encountered Broken during, like, Razor, where we were getting, like, everybody.
Yeah, well, Shuckle's got a handle on all these. I can't keep track of all these details.
So yeah, it's like, you know, every time you die, you get a new voice, and some of those paths you end up dying way more than other times. You know, sometimes the chapters it's broken up into end up kind of being more than one death loop.
Yeah, it's just like, how many are you there to observe for, versus how many times have you actually done this?
But yeah, if you go down one of those endings, you will meet all of the voices, but, you know, I know the one who kind of got their own introduction, you know, in isolation, were not just in part of the All-Star segments. I think we properly got acquainted with the Cold this time.
Oh, I think that's who I was thinking of, was the Cold. I was thinking the Broken was the Cold.
Yeah, they got similar vibe, but, like, different level of aggressiveness.
And the circumstances in their introduction are kind of opposed, where the Cold's just like, okay, we killed her once, we can do it again, versus there's no hope for any of us.
Okay. My brain is generally, when I'm observing playing this game, is trying to figure out the larger context and failing, so a lot of the details are not anchoring themselves in ways where I can recall them directly. You know what I mean? It's like my memory of how this all plays out. It doesn't make any sense when I try and go back into the, like, what does it feel like to play Slay the Princess? Error. That's all I get. You know, if I get some points of thoughts of things that I enjoyed or things that really shocked me, but because it doesn't really have a narrative flow like I'm used to thinking of narrative flow, I can't find some of those details when I go back to recall them.
Yeah. Although this is making me think that there's an interaction, like, I need to see if this is something that you can actually have happen. I want to see if you can get both the Stubborn and the Broken at the same time, because I feel like they would disagree so strongly on, like, everything.
Well, I know you're busy, but maybe you'll have time to do some of that. And we'll definitely be able to take a look once the update comes in and see if that shows up and how they present update stuff.
I wonder if we're actually going to get any new voices in Pristine Cut.
They said there's going to be like 30% more content, so that's a high possibility.
Ooh, what could we possibly have added? What kind of perspective could we gain?
The bloodthirsty.
The
savior of souls.
The non-committal.
Oh.
Let's not be too hasty.
It's like, hold on, let's take a look at the knife.
Okay.
Are you sure it's sharp enough? Maybe we should look for another weapon instead.
Do the windows open to the cabin? Hold on, do these stairs have any railings?
They've got walls most of the time. Not all the time. Most of the time. Okay, good point. Are we seasoned enough for the princess?
The tourist. Ooh, wow! Look at all of this decor!
Or perhaps just the curious.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay.
Oh, the curious, in general, that would just be great. I would love that one.
Ooh, we have to do that. I need to see what happens.
Yeah, so anyway, devs, if you're listening, apparently my kids have some ideas. So, as far as the game goes, I think we've hit most of the high points and most of the things we wanted to talk about. Is that correct?
Have we?
I don't know. Have we?
I don't know. Have we?
Oh.
I got flipped off. I got to see a bird today.
Ugh.
Anyway, don't die.
I feel like no matter how much we talk about this, we're not going to come to, any satisfying, conclusion. There's always something more we could talk about, is the problem.
Well, that's the thing is it's because there's points, right? A million little points. But there's no concrete pathways in a lot of ways. So, we could talk around it and about it, but not really talk it, you know?
Okay. People who have watched my streams know that, one of the things I like about the game Grotto, right, is that there's so many choices you can make in that game, but you don't know exactly how many there are. This takes that idea to an extreme that I don't know what to do with.
So it definitely, leaves us sort of just kind of running around, scrambling, trying to find points, but, it's not so much that it has no substance, it's just that all that substance is liquid. It's just constantly shifting around. Kind of hard to get a grip on.
And all the possibilities that you experienced are still holding space for other possibilities. It's I know I had this experience playing Slay the Princess, but someone else could easily have a very different experience making some of the same choices. Because so much of it also is that inkblot thing again, where you're bringing to it what you have in you.
And then, let's say you and some other person miraculously make the same choices, or, take the same paths. That doesn't necessarily even mean you took the paths in the same order, because that could also completely change how you think.
Ooh, how metaphorical for life. Art mirrors life again. Oh my gosh. So it's about some things leaving space for almost everything, is basically what I was trying to get at. It's no matter what you're doing, there's more possibilities inherent within everything that you're already thinking, within everything that you've already done, which makes it very difficult to articulate.
Have we tried to hug the princess?
I'm sure the smitten would like to.
Actually, was that one of the options in the Razor? Is that what brings out the smitten in that one?
I think the smitten just shows up because we died too many times.
I don't know.
So all the applicable people were there already.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a blur.
As it kind of should be. I don't really think that anyone expects anyone else to remember all of the details of your choices to get to these places. I mean,
because it's absurd.
If someone's trying to literally catalog the endings, they probably would, but nobody else. Or branches, because I'm are the endings even endings? I mean, that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, that's a fair point there.
So, I mean, yeah, for anyone who has followed along this far and you have not even played any of the game yet, I'm sure you're confused as hell. Don't plan on that changing too much even if you do. It's just you'll know what we're talking about and you'll feel a different kind of confusion.
Yeah, thanks for listening this far. I hope you've enjoyed the memes.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been making a lot of those, and in an unusual fashion, they were made before the episode was even recorded, which is fascinating.
I needed something to do this morning.
So, how the hell do we end this episode?
Ooh, we die!
I guess if this is the way we're gonna end the podcast episode, slaying us would probably be doing us a favor.
Oh. It's a podcast. You need to laugh out loud. Anyway, we really enjoyed what we've played so far of Slay the Princess, are really excited for the quality of life updates and the new content and the pristine cut that's coming out on the 26th of October, I do believe.
I think expecting me to remember something like that after having to dwell in this quagmire of possibilities is really something.
Anyway, if you haven't indulged yet, we highly encourage you to. Please dive in, laugh, be horrified, and very confused. And we look forward to talking to you again in a couple weeks. This has been Collab Not Multiplayer, and I'm Giggleklutz.
I'm Honeyshuckleex.
And I'm Dead Bot Barbecue.
Goodbye!
Bye!